Are you preparing for your fantasy football draft? If so, stay tuned to this video where we review the top 10 tight ends in Fantasy League and where to take them in your fantasy draft. Hi everyone, I'm Gary Kurtzman.
And I'm Eric Lee, and we are the Fantasy Football Consultants. And today we get to talk about tight ends. Now you may have saw our earlier video where we broke down defenses and kickers. Now tight ends are a position which, people can be drafting either very early in the draft or at the very end of the draft.
Yeah, there's a lot of variability and volatility with tight ends. And Eric, there are only a few real offensive difference makers at this position, which makes it so crucial to have the right strategy entering your fantasy draft.
So let's get right into our top 10. We have a tier 1, which is the 3 top tight ends in the NFL. And number 1 on our list is Rob Gronkowski. Well, the Gronk man, he has been a difference maker at tight end for a long time. Since 2010, he's averaged 5 receptions, 77 yards, and in 3 out of 4 games, he's getting a TD. So I've been lucky enough to have Gronk as an owner, and it's so nice to have a significant advantage over your opponent on almost every match, Gary.
Yeah, almost every match where he can stay healthy, Eric. I know he's been injured of late, including last year. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's the knock on Gronk. He can't stay healthy, but that's actually not true. He has been healthy in 3 of the last 4 years. He's only missed 1 game due to injury. So don't worry about Gronk. You can have confidence in drafting him and not worry about injury. And I think his role this year could even be bigger. Yes, Julian Edelman will be back, but Amendola is gone, Brandon Cooks is gone, and Dion Lewis, who is huge in the passing game, is also gone. So yeah, number 1 on our list.
Absolutely. A close number 2 on the list is Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. He was actually your number 1 tight end last year. And what has he done over the past 4 years? Well, he averages well over 1,000 yards per year. He averages 6 touchdowns per year. Basically, he is a consistency machine. In fact, he got even better last year as Kansas City just basically unleashed their offense and released the reins to Alex Smith, where Travis Kelce and Alex Smith had themselves a career year. Now he's got a new quarterback in Pat Mahomes, who most people think will be even better in the Kansas City system. That's pretty strong words to say for a rookie quarterback, and folks, time will tell. So we're tempering expectations a little bit for Travis Kelce because of a new quarterback, but bear in mind one thing. Kansas City kicked Alex Smith to the curb before Pat Mahomes even played a game in the NFL. They obviously trust the guy. They traded up in the first round last year to get Pat Mahomes. He's got a stronger arm than Alex Smith does. They love to run Travis Kelce down the seam route, similar to Rob Gronkowski, where Pat Mahomes can use his strong arms, to hit Kelce for big games. It could theoretically set Kelce up for a career year.
Kelce can match Gronkowski in receptions. He can match him in yards. Will he be able to raise his touchdowns to Gronk's level under Pat Mahomes? We will see. Number 3 on our list is Zach Ertz. Gary, Zach Ertz is a lot of similarities to the 2 guys ahead of him. He's about the same age. He's 27, where those guys are around 28. He gets a similar amount of receptions and yardage per game.
Oh, wait, there's one more thing, though, isn't there?
There is one more thing. There's touchdowns. And can you trust him to keep up last year's touchdowns? He had 2 touchdowns, and he went to 4 touchdowns, and then last year he went to 8. So does that mean 16 this year? I doubt it, but will he at least be able to be counted on to get 8 TDs? That's why, even though he's on the Super Bowl champion Eagles, they have other targets on there, especially in the red zone. It's just a question about whether he can match them in touchdown production.
Yeah, but certainly a very high ceiling for Zach Ertz, and that is why he belongs in the top tier along with Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce.
Let's talk about this top tier, Gary. The ADP, the average draft position, Gronk is at 23, Kelce is at 29, and then Ertz is at 34. That,
of course, at the beginning or the middle of the 3rd round is going to cost you not necessarily a bell cow quarterback, but it will cost you a number 1 wide receiver on an NFL team or a 2nd tier running back. That's roughly where the ADPs land. Whether it's worth it to you is how much you value locking down the tight end position versus taking somebody near the end of the draft and taking a flyer on somebody.
Yeah, if you see either of the two guys somehow slipping to the 4th round, you wanna go for Kelce and Gronk. Let's go to our second tier, Gary, and who's number 4 on the list?
So heading up the second tier, number 4, Greg Olsen, of the Carolina Panthers. Eric, model of consistency, absolute model of consistency. Gee, that's kind of funny because last year he had a broken foot. Obviously, that seems strange, model of consistency. Just remember one thing. Every year before then, and by the way, he's 33 years old. He's been around a while. Every year before then, he's gotten 1,000 yards since his rookie season. He was on his way to 1,000 yards before he broke his foot. He is age 33. You have to assume that there's going to be some sort of declination. We haven't seen it yet with him. There's no reason to believe, even at age 33, that Cam Newton's still not going to throw for at least 1,000 yards. He averages, unfortunately, 3 or 4 touchdowns. If he could ramp that up, and he's got the red zone looks of Zach Ertz, so it's possible he could sneak into the top tier, but he'd really have to ramp up those touchdowns and average better than 3 or 4 a season if he's going to bust from the top of the second tier to the bottom of the first.
Yeah, one of the concerns I have with Greg Olsen is we haven't seen him play many games with Christian McCaffrey, and he's such a force in their receiving game, but Olsen has a great comfort level with Cam Newton. Number 5 on our list is Jimmy Graham. So, Gary, I think Jimmy Graham knows how to pick the QBs he plays for. He started his career in New Orleans with Drew Brees, went to Russell Wilson with Seattle, and now he has the joy of getting passes thrown to him by Aaron Rodgers. So, yes, lots of opportunity, and I think he will gel much better with Green Bay than he did with Seattle. Why? Well, one of the reasons is Seattle has a very poor offensive line, and Jimmy Graham does some things well, but blocking is not one of them. He's a horrible blocker, and he had to go out of games series and plays many times because they needed to bring in a blocking tight end. And now that hurt him last year. His receptions were way down. His targets were down. And the only reason he did really well was because he led all tight ends with 10 TDs. I think that you'll see his receptions and yards go up in Green Bay, and hopefully he can match the TD production.
Certainly Aaron Rodgers loves to throw at the 1-yard line, the 2-yard line, and any yard line. So if you're going to play for a team as a tight end or a receiver, Green Bay has got to be the top of your list. So you're right. He's going to have a lot of opportunities there. Somebody else who gets a lot of opportunities is Evan Ingram. He was a rookie last year, and yet he was the 3rd most fantasy points at the tight end position. How did he do it? Well, the NFL is nothing but a land of opportunity. Here, let's play a game. What do these 3 people have in common? Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, and Lewis. They're all New York Giants wide receivers, and they were all injured last year. Let's face it, Eli Manning didn't have a whole lot of people to throw to last year, but Evan Ingram was definitely one of them. So, how much is that production going to revert this year? Bear in mind one thing. Nobody doubts, nobody denies that Evan Ingram is a generational talent. The build of a tight end or a linebacker with the speed of a wide receiver, people compare his innate abilities to Rob Gronkowski, and it's not an unfair comparison. But he's got Eli Manning thrown to him, not Tom Brady. He's in Bob McAdoo's offensive system, although fortunately the Giants have replaced their offensive coordinator this year. But the system remains, and you cannot compare that to New England's, right? So obviously that's going to drop him down considerably. How far down? What's Evan Ingram's performance going to be like? Frankly, we don't know. We've never seen him with a healthy receiving core. One thing I can tell you for sure, though, is just based on that talent alone, he is solidly in our second tier of tight ends with an incredible ceiling if everything breaks right for him.
So let's move on to number 7 on our list, and that is Delanie Walker.
I tell you, I don't get no respect at all.
And And I hear you, Delaney, out there. Sorry we got you all the way down at number 7 because, yes, we realize it. You have been amazingly consistent for a very long time. Delaney has had 4 straight seasons where he had over 63 receptions, over 100 targets, and over 800 yards. So he's been performing. Why are we down on him? It's not so much that we're down on him. We like a lot of the guys that are ahead of him more. And quite honestly, he's now 34 years old. And
Walker is not just a name; it's also the accoutrement that he uses to get on the field. 34 is very old for tight ends.
So that wraps up our tier 2, and we see those guys are going ADP 50s and 60s, Gary. So again, in the 10-team league, that's the 6th or the 7th round. What do you think about that ADP?
I don't think it's a reach at all for Greg Olsen or Jimmy Graham, certainly. I think they are locks to be difference makers at the tight ends. And frankly, when you talk about the ADP in the 50s and 60s in a 10-team league, that's the 6th round. By that point, all the starting running backs in the NFL are taken. All the number 1 wide receivers for NFL teams are taken. So you're starting to take flyers on guys now. And if you're starting to take flyers on guys, you could do a hell of a lot worse than guys who will perform, like Olsen or Graham. Now, Ingram and Walker are a little bit different, but to our point, Ingram is a generational talent. Walker has been consistent year in, year out. I still say in that 6th round, you could do a heck of a lot worse than pulling these guys instead of taking a flyer on a running back or wide receiver.
Because you see in the 6th round, if you choose to wait on a quarterback, which in general I think is a good strategy, you may have already gotten your 2 starting running backs and your 3 starting wide receivers.
Sure.
And if you can lock up an Olsen or a Graham, that might be a good time to do it.
Absolutely.
Let's go to our last tier.
Yeah, so now we're starting the 3rd tier, and so now you're going to start getting some sleepers, some flyers, some guys to take the chance on. Heading that list is Trey Burton out of Chicago. Trey Burton, who is he? Well, you will be forgiven if you don't know who Trey Burton is, because he has been buried behind some guy in Philly, I don't know, probably not very good, by the name of Zach Ertz. So, on a per-catch basis, he did very well in Philly. Well enough to parlay a pretty rich starting contract for Chicago this year. Oh, and by the way, who's coaching him? Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy, that rings a bell. Try Kansas City Chiefs. He's the one who coached Travis Kelce. Does that mean that Trey Burton's going to be the next Travis Kelce? Let's temper those expectations a bit. But you know that Matt Nagy features tight ends in his offense. And you also know that Trey Burton has done wonderfully in the NFL with the limited opportunities he has. This is why we put him on our sleeper list. This is why I think if you are down in the 7th or 8th round, he's well worth taking a flyer on, because based on what we've talked about, the land of opportunity and the innate talent, he's somebody with a pretty high ceiling.
Number 9 on our list is Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. Red zone reindeer, as my nephews would say.
Right.
Hey, look, he has that nickname for a good reason. He's gotten 15 TDs in the last 2 years. But the problem with Kyle Rudolph and why he's so far down on our list is that we have seen his receptions dramatically fall from last year, and his targets dramatically fall, and his yards. And why? They're all going to Adam Thielen, who saw a spike of that, and I think that's going to continue this year. So temper expectations for Rudolph.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Temper expectations on the number 10, Jordan Reed. Why? Jordan Reed of Washington is incredibly talented, but how many times have we seen his name on the injury report? There is only 1 year out of the last 5 that man has played more than 10 games. And frankly, I don't care where you're drafting tight end or any position, you cannot afford for that positional player to be on the bench for 2/3 of the games because he's not playing. He's got the talent. He's got Alex Smith thrown to him, and Alex Smith loves tight ends. And if you can guarantee me that Jordan Reed's going to stay healthy, I can guarantee you that he's going to be in that tier 2 of tight ends. Unfortunately, neither of us are in a position to make that guarantee. That's why he's down at number 10 on that list.
All right, so those are our top 10. You want to go to fantasyfootballconsultants.net, our website, to make sure you look at our updated rankings, which we will update as we get closer to the season, with not only for tight ends, but for all the positions to get you ready for your draft.
So that was the tight end video. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video.
See you then.